Welcome back to the Jim Eat Repeat recording studios. This is the first time I've been back in the studio in many, many months because I was busy planning a show, in case you haven't heard. I wanted to bring on the guys from Natty News Daily today, our Mr. America physique analysts. So, what's up,
Nice.
guys? Long time no talk.
I dig that title, physique analyst. I put that on a resume.
Yeah, you absolutely should. You absolutely should. I don't know if it's out there too often right now, but that's definitely a good one.
Yeah. We'll have to change the Natty News Instagram bio to physique analyst. I think that's got a nice little ring to it.
Yeah, just don't forget where you got that title from.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm happy to have you guys on. I don't ever do like a show recap. I just, wallow in it all. The good, the bad, and I just, keep it moving normally. But I figured you guys had front row seats. You're calling the show, the entire thing, amateurs, pros, awards, you're seeing it all. You guys were there Friday night for check-in. So you were there from start to finish. So I'm relying on you guys to help me recap this show. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything you think. Okay. If there's bad, I want to be able to fix it. If there's good, I want to be able to still improve on that also. But I don't hear that stuff often. We know the mistakes we make behind the scenes, but I don't know what other people see.
I mean, we thrive on being honest, right, dudes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
And I saw your blog on your way to Atlantic City. That was very good. I like that you made sure you got there and got a quick workout in, which is
Of
very
course.
impressive. Dedication is good. So you guys came to registration, right? Friday night.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
popped in a little bit for that, which was, I mean, it looked like a pretty streamlined process, which is good. Speaking for myself, I've been to shows where the registration is a drawn out, long, arduous process. And, for some athletes, maybe they're trying to make weight, so they maybe aren't eating much or they haven't drank much. So the the registration process for some athletes can be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Right.
I've been in situations where I've had to make weight, so it's like I'm first in line, get me weighed in, get me checked in, and get me the hell out of there.
Mhm.
So it was good to see that you guys had that kind of just pretty much like some tables lined up. You go here, you go here, you go here, you get some swag, you get out. I don't know if there was more to it than what we saw because we were just kind of in and out when we could on the Friday. But I mean, that whole situation I think looked to be pretty well done.
Well, like one of the things that we do is, we're I don't want to say we, it's not me. Jenna makes sure everything is super organized. Usually like 3 weeks prior to the show or 4 weeks, whenever we stop registrations, my dining room turns into like a war room. And not because of the planning, because she's ready to kill me, and I'm like, dodging rockets and bombs in the dining room. Because we want everything to be as smooth as possible from soup to nuts. So I'm glad that seemed
Mhm.
like it was good for everyone.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, and I don't even want to like reel it back from that. Like we're talking registration, just pulling up to the venue. I mean, this was our second year, right? We didn't
right.
actually even see the venue the night before like we did the prior year,
Oh,
but
you guys got
that
in late,
whole
right? Last time.
yeah, we got in. Well, we were able to get up on stage last time the night before, so we like opened the doors and it's this huge, amazing auditorium with like the flags and everything. So just the whole experience itself, it really is a destination, right? And Leroy and I
Right.
kind of turned into the trip, right, with our us doing our blog and we rode together and it's almost like a mini vacation going to see this and then
Yep.
just it being in the casino, all the restaurants there, the hustle and bustle of Atlantic City and there's a lot of fun to be had there just by being there, and
Yeah.
you did a very good job at choosing the venue and being able to put on this experience for people rather than it just being another bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
Yep.
You really hit the nail on the head with that. That's one of the things that we try to do is, when I first took over the Mr. America, I was like, okay, where do we hold the show? Right? It's a giant of a title, so it can't just be, in, you know, bumfuck high school somewhere. So
Hmm.
I wanted it to be a destination. We toyed with a lot of different cities, um, but the history that Atlantic City has, in case people were wondering why I was doing it there, is that's where Miss America started out, was in Atlantic City forever and ever and ever. And Mr. America, part of the reason that came to be was for a male version of Ms. America, and it started out as America's best built male. So I like I like the marriage of those two and doing it in Atlantic City. And it is a destination. You have the beach, you have the boardwalk, you have all the casinos, and they're each one is a resort in and of itself. So I really do like having it there. So I'm glad you did pick up on that. That yeah, it is a destination. It's also a destination that's a little tough to get to, right? Most people fly into Philadelphia. There's not a whole ton of flights into Atlantic City, but
Mhm.
all that I guess goes goes into the experience. That's good. So did you guys see the stage the night before or not until Saturday morning this year?
Yeah. So it was Saturday morning. Oh, I think Dan was able because Dan
I
landed Thursday, so you were able to get a peek at it. James and I not till
I
the
got a peek
morning
at
of
it
the
the night
show.
before. Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah,
had
and then
dinner, Dan.
yeah, we did.
Yes. Yes. I forgot all about that. It's becomes a big blur.
Not that you're
All right.
forgettable, Dan. That's not what he means.
It was a one-on-one. It was like a date too, and you forget. Wow, it must
It,
have
it
been really
was. It
bad.
was. It was like a little dimly lit. I think we had some appetizers, some entrees. Dan excused himself to use the restroom. He came back and he looked like he freshened up a bit. So it was good. It was a good time.
It was.
The other thing I like about the way athlete registration goes is there's so many people that only know each other from Instagram
Mhm.
that they get to finally meet in person.
Yep.
And to me, I think that's huge. I wish I could. Maybe I got to be careful what I wish for. I'd like to extend that out somehow, right? And let people really get to, let loose and get to know each other more than, in passing. But I know a lot of people like that. A lot of athletes always comment on that. And seeing people's reactions when they meet people for the first time, it's really priceless. So I do enjoy that a lot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was gonna mention that before. Like, where we were last year to where we are this year in the community is obviously a bit bigger scope now. So we know more people, we have more connections, and shows like yours is an opportunity for a lot of people within the community to come together. Obviously, all over the country. I know there was some Canadian athletes down there too, and some from overseas. So it's cool. Like when we were there at registration, we got to meet some faces that a couple people like I'll name Joe Lacera, who I'd never met prior to when we went to the gym and then at the Mr. America, but we've been
Right.
talking online for years.
Right.
So those moments, I think, and that's something that my mindset towards bodybuilding has evolved over the last couple of years, is like making memories within the sport outside of just like winning shows and chasing championships, is the people you meet and the relationships along the way. Like, you know, the three of us met through bodybuilding,
And
us and
Instagram.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Instagram,
Right.
right? Us and you, Mark. Like that's all
Right.
been kind of forged through this weird little thing we do called bodybuilding, and the amount of people that we now meet at these shows, and guys that we hadn't seen since last Mr. America. That it's like, hey man, it's been a year. How you doing?
Right.
You follow each other and you connect online, but then to have those times to reconnect a little bit in person, and a couple of us at registration, and during moments in the show and after the show, it's definitely a place where a lot of those things, for those listening, like if you're a competitor, it gives you a big opportunity because everybody's invited, that
Right.
maybe you would never otherwise cross paths because you compete in different shows or you live in different areas, but it's kind of like a come one come all, and let's have a good time.
Wow. Yeah. I feel the same way. I talk to so many people, online or, DMs and stuff. And, sometimes I'll get like a message request and I don't go see who the profile is. I just answer the question. Right. Um, and then, a month later, you find out like, well, I've been talking to this person for, 4 weeks. Who is this? And I look at the profile and then I finally get to meet him. So I feel that too. I like the sense of community that we've been able to build around the Mr. America. I think that's really important for the sport. I think it's important for the athletes. Um, you know, there's opportunities out there, guys, but they're not always in your backyard, right? You have to branch out and go after them. So I really like that facet of it, which is why
Yep.
I'd like to make, I don't know, a longer check-in process. No, maybe something after. I want to do something where people could really hang out and get to know each other a little bit more. So it seems like after the show, a lot of people rush out, and it's like, oh, see you.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
Yeah. And I think a lot of that mingling just happens on during that check-in and then also throughout the day, pros, amateurs, there's lots of time in there to
yeah,
mingle. And I know some of the boys ran out between uh prejudging in finals and got some food. I
So we get to the show Saturday, and it was a big show. There was a lot of people that were coming out to compete this year. A lot of amateurs, which I was really happy to see. A lot of shit ton of pros, and the quality of even the amateurs. I was really blown away this year.
Hmm.
The people's from year to year are improving tremendously. I look at what this show was 4 years ago, or other shows, big major shows, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and the quality of the athlete each and every year keeps improving. And it seems like the best of the best keep ending up on the Mr. America stage. So what's that like, as you're sitting there watching this show, seeing all the top quality?
Like the quality of athlete across the board, I think is just getting better and better.
Yep.
So, like you said, within the amateurs, there was a couple amateurs that the three of us were sitting there going, "What? Amateur of what? Like, you're not an amateur bodybuilder, like amateur tennis. Like, what are we talking about here?" Because there was some people up there, and I know there's people that were pros years prior that aren't pro anymore. But if we
Right.
just separate from everything and just say like amateur bodybuilding is being harder to decipher between the pros sometimes because they're they're a pro physique but don't have a pro title. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Which is super cool for us to see, right? Because there's guys that you know we'd be like, who the hell is this guy? And Dan would pull up the spreadsheet. Oh, it's so and so, and then we'd pull him up on Instagram, check him out, and like, well, I don't know where the heck they came from, but I'm
Yeah.
glad they're up on that stage.
Yeah, there
Hmm.
was a lot of that, as we're separating out the classes, and you're looking at some of the names. I'm like, I didn't even know some of these people,
Yeah,
and you pull them up, and you're like, where have you been hiding? So
Hmm.
it's really good to see that. Um, like Gianluca in Amateur Classic. I
Hmm.
mean, he was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and that kid's gonna have a tremendous future in the pro ranks.
Yeah, yeah. So he had some sort of medical condition. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it basically left him paralyzed. Back, I think it was 5, 6 years ago. So he basically brought himself back from paralyzed in bed to classic physique champion, and what he's built now, and in the form that he's in now, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I was doing the call outs for the amateurs. I want to talk about that for a little bit, but when they came out, I just kind of left them off to the side, trying to let the judges compare everybody else, and I'm just watching him go through his poses, and I'm like, I want to move him to the pro stage this in the afternoon, because his posing it was beautiful. His lines were
Very
beautiful.
cool.
He was
Yeah.
graceful on stage. I really enjoyed watching him. He was tremendous.
yeah. He come up to us after prejudging, was like, what do you guys think? Like, do you think I got it? Do you think I don't? And I'm like, trying to like keep him a little humble, but I'm like, you're all right, dude. Just go relax and just keep it steady a little bit, because you don't want to like, because you never know, right? Like us sitting
Right.
there, we obviously have our opinions, and we're watching the stage from an angle. You guys see it straight on, so maybe you're seeing things we don't. So I don't ever, and this is the same way with clients. James, you coach, so I'm sure you can kind of
Hmm.
echo this statement where it's like, even if you're very confident that the placing is what you think it's going to be, unless it's a for sure, I'm never going to look someone in the eye and be like, yeah, man, you got this, because
Right.
I would feel like absolute shit if I was wrong. But
Hmm.
when he come off, obviously we saw what you saw, right? Where it was like, man, this is a great athlete in any lineup,
Right.
and there was obviously other talent on that stage as well. But the way he posed, the way he carried himself, the physique he brought, it was easy to give him some positive feedback
Yeah.
when he approached us after.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Was he? Is he somebody that was following you guys? Did he know who you were?
Yeah, he not to just stroke our egos a little bit, but he was
No,
kind
no.
of
Go ahead. Do it.
he was kind of fangirling over us and that we were interviewing him and stuff like that. So obviously for us, that means a lot. He was just as much as it meant for us to like be in that position and to be like talking to him and sharing his story. For him to then be like, "Damn, like I can't believe I'm being interviewed by Natty News Daily." We're like, "Us, cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's those are the things I think that go a long way with an event like this. And I just I hope as we move into the future that those things do keep happening, right? You never know who's watching you, who's listening to you, who's taking your advice, and I like to hold, especially pros, to that higher standard, right? Don't be an asshole online. You don't know who you're inspiring.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
something like that, him knowing you, like I'm sure he's following some of your workouts, Dan, that he sees you go through. You know, and that's what it's all about, is the pros, guiding those amateurs up into the pro ranks, and them learning from you, which is another reason I like, at the night show, putting the pros with the amateurs backstage. I heard so many stories, of amateurs that were just, blown away by meeting somebody that they've been, following and looking up to. I heard stories of pros giving amateurs advice, and the amateurs were like, that was the best part of the whole weekend. Regardless of where they placed, that was the best part of the weekend. They got to meet their favorite pro and get advice from them, pump with them backstage. So I do like the way that went. It did get a little tight back there. Um, so that's something that I need to work on a little bit backstage. But that backstage experience all around, I think, is it's hard for me to talk about because it means so much to me what everyone's
Yeah.
getting from this. So I get a little emotional when I think about it.
I mean, I got to talk shop with Marshall Johnson for a few minutes. I mean, that's exactly the same experience. Like, I mean,
Right.
he's been in the game forever, and
Mhm.
I just picked his brain on what he thought about competing in different organizations, and what his philosophy is on competing. And I mean, it's just, yeah, I got that experience myself.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
really I really like that. I just again, like I wish we could extend that. I wish more people would stick around, longer throughout the weekend. Uh, I know, like on Monday morning and Monday afternoon, I was still there, and I was still running into people. So there are people sticking around. So I think next year I want to try to put some type of organized something together for either probably Sunday, whether it's a breakfast or something, but
Mhm.
really kind of keep that going. I know we started later than we normally do. I didn't want to do a morning show.
I was just gonna say the first portion flew by. It was like, oh man, we're good. We're at intermission. We're done with the amateur aspect. That was great. And then I think we all know the evening ran pretty late, and that was getting drug out there a little bit. And I'm not sure exactly why, right? I don't know. You probably know more detail than us, but just from our point of view, much later than the expected timeline for sure.
We needed to cut an hour and a half off the show. Um, I haven't watched the whole live stream, um, but I've been getting bits and pieces from people, like just through talking, and yeah, there's definitely there's definitely some ways that we could to to cut some time off of that. But with that being said, yes, it did run later into the evening, as the clock goes, um, but it was still only 6.5 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the duration of the show. I mean, I've been at shows like our big Canadian national show last year. Well, this year I guess started at 8 a.m. My last athlete got off stage at 11 p.m. So a 6 hour duration in the grand scheme of things isn't that
Mhm.
long. Now, maybe because it felt like there was maybe a lot of like dead air and empty space, and
right.
for example, there was a certain period where when awards were being done, everybody was brought on and then everybody was pulled to the side and then top five were called in reverse, and then okay, you just leave the three, okay, now just leave the one. Awards per
Yeah,
class was taking like 10 minutes. That, for example, is just something that obviously is very easy to tighten up in the
right.
future, that would obviously start trimming away that hour and a half timeline.
Yeah.
But I
And
think
I'm
as
not
far.
sure why that happened. Like,
Yep.
I, I, I don't know. Like, we have it all written out, spelled out. You know, the way everything is supposed to be moving along, and who knows? It could be DJ, MC, trophy presenters. I know a
For
couple
sure.
medals broke, but
Yep.
all that starts adding up, and now all of a
Totally.
sudden we're an hour
Yep.
and a half behind.
Yeah.
Um, but with that being said, I did like that later actual start, right? Starting, with the Masters prejudging at 4 o'clock and having that night show. One of the things I noticed was a complete different size of the audience versus last year and having an earlier show. And that's one of the things that we really wanted to accomplish was making sure there's more people coming to see the show. And I don't think you get that when you do, a 9 o'clock a.m. show on a Saturday. You know, I said it in the athletes meeting, and I think I've said it to you guys before. Like professional athletes and major events don't happen at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. You
Yeah.
know, the Super Bowl's
But
at eight
do
o'clock
you
at
think
night.
some of that was people just coming for the pros and knew that the pros were going on later? I mean, I know like my brother and my friend came and they specifically came when the pros were starting, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. So I have I
so
have
even if you moved it up, do you think I think you still might get that, you know?
So we did a lot of marketing this year. I've talked to a bunch of people after the show. People drove in from Delaware, from Maryland, from New York State, from Pennsylvania to specifically go have dinner in Atlantic City, watch the show, spend the night. Um, so there was definitely people there that weren't friends and family, right? And that's what I'm trying to accomplish. If we get 2,000 butts in the seats, fans coming to see you, that's a big difference than your girlfriend coming to spend 12 hours with you at a venue all day.
Hmm.
And I think as pro athletes, I think you'd want to perform in front of a crowd, right? As
Yeah.
much as it is a personal journey and a competition for each and every athlete, you're still a pro athlete that you know a promoter is selling tickets to people for them to come see you, right? And I know we've talked about this a lot. We want to increase prize money. I can't increase prize money, or I don't think any show could increase prize money expecting to sell out 2,000 seat auditorium at 9 o'clock in the morning. It
Yeah.
just doesn't
Hmm.
make sense. And
Yeah.
I think listen, I think an amateur show at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, anywhere USA, great. I think your regional type smaller pro shows anywhere, mid afternoon, great. But when you come to the Natural Olympia or the Yorton Cup or WNBF Worlds, like I think these are the shows that let's put them on at night, make it prime time, you know, give all of the athletes that prime time feel. I mean, for God's sakes, you're professionals, right? So get out there and perform. But I think a lot of people also forget that it is more than it's a competition for the athletes, but for the promoters, it's a show, right?
Yeah.
So the pros are the
Hmm.
ones putting on the show.
Yeah. But it is a long event too, so it's not like
Yeah,
a typical sporting event where it's a 2-3 hour event. It's a six
correct.
plus hour event. So you have to kind of go accordingly. I'd be in favor of pushing it up, pulling it up an hour, maybe starting at noon.
Right,
Like I said, that starts with amateurs, right? So
right, right.
pros are on in the
Yeah, and we had
late
an hour and a half
afternoon.
break too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
So,
even look at the other side of the sport, you look at the Olympia, the the open bodybuilding starting at 7, 8 o'clock at night, sometimes later.
right.
So if you are, and again, I think a lot of this
That's
could
in
be Redmond.
Vegas though. Yeah, too. But right?
No, but still the timeline though. Like when Carrie and I were there
Yeah.
last year, like it was 8
Oh,
p.m. before the
it was 7,
open.
8 o'clock there. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the timeline is still. But I think like if you have kind of the logistics of those little hiccups tightened up a little bit, where maybe you start amateurs at noon, goes till 2, you've got that break, pros starting 4 or 5 o'clock, whatever it is,
Right.
and you're done by 8, 9 p.m. the latest, not
Yeah.
10, 11.
That's a good end time.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
th- I think
what we
that's
were
reasonable,
anticipating. I
right?
think yeah, I think Jenna had we were supposed to stop, I want to say at like 9 p.m. the show should have been wrapped.
Yep,
And I think we ended up going till 10:40.
yep,
Yeah, so it was a full hour and a half.
Hmm.
yep.
So all right, so with that, there is a way to shorten the show, and there is a way to have a kick-ass finals. However, I'm not sure. How would you feel about doing pro prejudging Friday night finals on Saturday?
I thought so. The way I thought you were gonna break it down was like amateur Friday, pro on Saturday, because I've
Well,
seen
I'm
shows
just
start
throwing it
doing
out there
that.
for
Yeah,
conversation. Yeah, I
yeah.
think in the future that's what we're going to do is amateurs on Friday, pros on Saturday or something. It's going to be broken up differently. Um, but what about a pro prejudging on Friday night and then pro
Mm.
finals on Saturday?
It's tough. That's tough
It's tough. Yeah.
logistically, I feel like, for like a lot of different reasons, right? Peaking for those two things adds a complexity most athletes on our side of the sport aren't used to. The logistics of then now they're probably going to try and get in what Tuesday, Wednesday to have a day to kind of settle in. So you're
Right.
taking off the whole week from work for a sport that's, we want it to pay well, but right now we know that there
Right.
goes a lot of people's vacation.
Right.
So yeah, I think that makes it
Yeah, I think
challenging.
that's a
It
tough
Yeah.
one.
And
raises a whole, yeah.
those are a lot of the things that, we think about too, is, how do we make the sport better? Right. Um, we're trying to, I mean, I guess it's a fair way to put it. I'm trying to lead from the front with this thing. Right. So I
Yeah.
feel like if I try to elevate things, other people are going to be like, I got to step it up a little bit. And I have noticed that over the past couple years, there are people and different shows and organizations all stepping up, doing more and better. So I'm very happy to see that. Um, but there's still plenty of room to go to bring this up to where it should be. So, but these are ideas I've had. What do you think of the progression of the event over the past couple years? Well, let's see. What year are we in? 23, 22. You competed in 21, Dan?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
when it was at
so
the showboat.
right. So what do you think of the progression of the show over the past few years as far as, like the whole experience?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, especially the venue and everything, it definitely has elevated, and the spectacle of the event,
Spectacle.
uh,
Okay.
you like that word?
Yeah, I do. That's a good one. That's a
Yeah,
good
I
one.
mean, like you walk into the venue. It's a legit theater. You've got lights going. You got the big backdrop. I mean, it flags like it's like it looks like a professional event, right?
Right.
Also, just on a side note, I don't know if you guys saw the photo of Silas that was shared today. Amazing job on the
That
photography.
was epic.
Y'all killed
Well,
that.
we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, I walked in, I was like, wow, this is leveling up every year. So
Right.
I mean, I like to see when bodybuilding is made more professional, right? Because I think it's been a lot of our gripes with natural bodybuilding is like it's a lot of these shows and not to throw shit at individual shows, but like a lot of them are bush league, and it's like
Yeah.
this is some rinky dink event that people just get together and spray tan and just step on some goofy stage in a high school auditorium, right? Like
Right. Right.
versus like a truly professional event with a professional stage, professional lighting, professional videography, and really presenting athletes in the light I think they deserve. I mean, I
Right.
mean, the as Leroy had mentioned, that the standard of natural bodybuilding is I think going up, and I think it really deserves to be showcased in that light. It's a visual sport, and I think showcasing as such, I think is spectacular.
Are you competing next year, Dan?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. You're gonna be on stage for the 85th. Wow.
Ooh, it's a big one.
Oh
No
yeah.
pressure, Dan.
I'm gonna
Well,
roast you on commentary so bad.
Leroy, why aren't you competing?
I'm a child incoming in the next 6 months, my friend.
You don't think you'll lose the pregnancy weight, or?
Well, it's not looking good.
Wow. All right, you're gonna have your hands full. You could get one of the baby carriers for like squats and stuff.
Oh, for sure. Don't worry. I'm thinking ahead.
Yeah.
James, are you gonna
absolutely.
compete?
Uh, probably not.
Okay.
It's just there's so much going on right now. So I pretty much between Natty News, my coaching company, and now starting my own physical therapy clinic. It's
Oh wow.
just for me to even work out right now is like a feat in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Tell me
need
about
some
it.
time. Need some time to commit to the training before I want to step on a stage as big as Mr. A.
So I know this year, we added wellness in, we added the 50+ class in. People were asking for the 50+. When that 50+ class came out, it was like any one of those guys, they could have won the open.
Mm-hmm.
They could have won the open. So again, back to the quality of these athletes. It's unreal to me, what's coming out and competing, and I hope that just continues that way. We're going to be doing some things, hopefully for next year that should help entice some people to come out more. Jeremiah winning third time in a row. I don't know. Do
Yeah,
I ban him now? Do we ban him? Like, all right, you can't come back. I mean, he's crushing it everywhere he goes,
I'm a
and
massive
he,
fan of his. I'm a huge
Yeah.
Jeremiah fan. I'll say that right now.
yeah, and so I think he was bigger this year too.
He looked insane. I remember,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like when you see people by themselves, when you see them on Instagram, or I don't remember the gentleman's name that come out. I think he was second or third in Classic, and James and I kind of look at each other and we're like, "Oh shit! Like this guy might give
Darren.
Jeremiah, Darren."
Yeah.
Okay, so Darren comes out and we're like,
yeah,
"Damn, this guy might give Jeremiah a run." And then Jeremiah comes out by himself, and you're like, "Freak, he looks just as good as ever." And then you see him side by side, and you're like, Darren maybe from the back, but Jeremiah is just so good. He's so complete.
yeah,
It just, I don't know. I just sit there and I'm like, yep, that's bodybuilding right there. That's so good.
yeah. And there was definitely some battles up there. Um, so I mean, that was th- that class. I think may have been the closest out of all of the classes.
Hmm.
Looking at the final scorecards,
Yep,
as far as the points go, it was really close. It was really close. Gabriela Carreras, came out, won the first ever Ms. Wellness America.
yep,
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. I think wellness is a division between the enhanced side of the sport and the natural side of the sport. The enhanced side, you can really see a difference when you
right,
have like the top wellness athletes in the top bikini. I mean, they're it's like looking at open and classic. Like there is a very stark difference, because of obviously certain enhancements and protocols that,
right,
that they can take advantage of, along with training, genetics, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas like with the enhanced side, and we talked about this, probably at some point on commentary, where I think deciphering bikini and wellness for a lot of girls can be tricky. You kind of
right,
touched on where like some girls may be a bit more lower body dominant, but it's not necessarily muscle. So it's not
right.
necessarily the look for wellness. I've seen it with clients where they like the look at wellness. Butts are in. Every girl wants a big butt.
Right.
But when she diets down, all of a sudden it's like, well,
Goes
you're
away.
bikini. But some still want to compete in wellness. So then you get that kind of discrepancy of like, you're in the category, but you shouldn't be. Whereas I think you're
Right.
right. Like especially the top couple at the Mr. America this year, they're probably a good example of what that division should kind of tailor itself to.
But yeah, Gabrielle Carreras, I think she nailed it.
Hmm.
Um, and a good point you brought up, Leroy, was what you see on the enhanced side of the sport versus what you see on our side of the sport is clearly different, right? But overall, it's like, okay, you could look at the enhanced side and say, okay, that's where I want to be proportionately,
Yeah,
right?
there's a
And
muscular
shape wise,
yeah, there's a muscularity and shape and proportion that you
right,
can reflect, but obviously on a bit smaller, different scale.
right,
Um, but yeah, as far as like actually looking at it and being like, oh, I want to be that big. Okay, well let's tighten that scope up a little bit.
right,
But yeah, I think there was some really good examples this time around at the Mr. A.
yeah. And I see it, I want to go back to classic. You see that in classic bodybuilding and open bodybuilding at lower end
Yes,
shows,
yes,
right? Where a lot of people are like, "Oh no, I'm classic," and guys like, "No, no, I'm a bodybuilder." But when you get to the upper tier of those top athletes, there is still a very distinct difference in those top athletes. So I'm
yep,
never going to be the one to say, "Hey, classic bodybuilding is natural bodybuilding." No, 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 it's not. When you look at the top physiques, there's a clear distinction still being made.
for sure, right? Like
Yeah,
Hmm.
you know, you look at. I think last year would be a better example where you look at Meshach and Jeremiah.
right. Clear difference.
Very clear
Hmm.
difference. Like, I'm sure if Robert this year hit some classic poses, we could look at him and go, you know what? That don't look too bad. Because he's
Right.
got that little bit taller, like more streamlined, more flow to his physique where Mishak, even Bada, a bit more muscular, compact physique. But you're right. Like
Right.
across any natural organization at the highest level, you will start to see those separations take place.
Yeah.
At the amateur shows and those smaller regional events, you get guys that cross over and jump here, jump there, and the discrepancies aren't as dramatic. But some of the shows that went on this past weekend that we covered on Natty News Daily, like you look at the classic winners and you're like, yeah, that's what it is for sure. You belong there.
Right. Yeah. I like seeing that. And I'm happy to know that uh, you know, we're hitting that mark. We're not getting a lot of that blended
Yep,
crossover, or and there's men's physique guys in smaller shows they'll do men's physique and classic. Whether it's at amateur level or pro, it's not the same. And
yep,
again, we have to look at those top end competitors and go from there,
yes,
right? Who's the best in that division? That's what we should be striving for. I
yep,
get amateurs. You don't know what you like, you don't know where you fit in yet. Your body's kind of it's like a bad haircut, right? Like you're kind of going through this weird. I shouldn't talk about haircuts. You're kind of going through this weird transition phase, with your body where it hasn't taken its full complete shape just yet.
for sure.
But do you think Jeremiah is going to outgrow classic? Are his lines going to become too much?
I
I
don't think so.
Yeah,
I think that'd be hard to do in the natural realms because I feel like growth at the natural, if your training is smart, is just going to be proportional. So like,
Right,
yeah, his chest might get bigger, but everything else is proportionally going to get bigger if he continues to train the same way he is. And
right,
so much of that is just like insertions and structure, and
yeah,
that's not going to change. So no, I
right,
think he's just going to keep refining.
yeah. I think like James said, like the amount that he would have to put on to blur that scope of like, is he classic anymore? When you see it in the untested side of the sport, it's usually a midsection thing. You see
uh,
that midsection distension start to
kind of,
go. It gets a little
yeah,
bit blocky, and then almost immediately when the midsection's off,
done.
yeah, it can almost like, well, you're not classic anymore, and now you're not even that good of a bodybuilder because your flow and shape is way off. So I think it'd be hard to see, especially. I mean, he's a pro. He knows what he's doing. Like
Yeah,
I don't think that would ever be a concern for him or any other top competitor at the Mr. America, where there's a chance that they unintentionally leave the category, if that makes sense.
right, right. Just watching a guy like Jeremiah over the past few years, he's just he does come back with some type of improvement every year, and I think looking at the pictures from this year versus his first year with us, he's definitely put on some size.
I think this year
I've
we saw a lot of like variety within the men's physique category. Like you had a lot of guys who were like really heavily muscled, ripped
mhm.
midsection. You had guys that were a little bit more streamlined, maybe a bit more well balanced. Whereas like last year, the top 2, 3 all looked very similar and were
Right,
very like men's physique esque in their look. But this year, there was a couple placings where us on commentary went back and forth on, and we're trying to watch the screen behind us because we could get a front angle,
right,
because there were some guys that you're like, damn, he's huge, but is
Mhm.
that men's physique? And then
right.
some guys that were a little bit smaller, in my opinion, really good proportioned, and more men's physique esque. And I think that's another division, and we're seeing that again if we look to the untested side of the sport, where they're trying to like put height classes and really tighten things up a little bit, because
Right.
you got to have some differential between the categories, because like if we're just looking for all massive guys, then they're all
Yeah, that's not
bodybuilders.
that's not what should win, right?
Mhm.
You have to fit the criteria first,
Exactly, and
right? And
that's
then it's going to
where,
come down
yeah,
to your symmetry and your muscularity.
Yeah.
Um,
So what
but
I
yeah, yeah,
noticed, what I was gonna say was I felt like that division this year, there were quite a few that were like towing that line of being too muscular, in my
yeah, there
opinion,
were.
compared to
Well,
what I'm used to seeing for, classic physique or not classic physique, physique. Like
right,
and also too maybe like a shorter division this year.
How did
where
we
you
have that
didn't
little
see those like
fight, right?
6 foot tall guys that just had no waist that were just like nutty looking physiques, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had it broken up by height class, um, which is good. I mean, you can't have a guy my height doing men's physique against the guy who's fucking 6 foot. It looked like we compete against a Smurf. It's not going to go well. But that was another good class. I'm glad he came out. Um, then there were some people that I saw at check-in that I've never met before, and I was just like blown away by their physique. Right? Maybe they were in tank tops or whatever, and then they didn't place nearly as well as I thought they would have. Right? Because once they get into their suit,
Oh yeah.
it's like a whole different ball game.
That I think
It's
that's
a whole different ball game.
one of my favorite things about this whole thing is you can see someone backstage, you can see someone by themselves in a tank top or whatever. You see them on Instagram, and you're like, "Holy frig, this dude's taking the whole thing." And then all of a sudden, he gets called seventh because when you
Right?
get on stage, you get under the lights, you get posing. Some guys, they don't look good till they pose, and then they just blow up, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Holy frig!" And
Well, Courtney
that's
is one of those people that she's not unassuming. Like, I mean, you tell she's, in phenomenal shape, but what you see standing next to her versus what happens to her when she gets on stage is like night and day. It's
Hmm.
like night and day. And, at the very first time I saw her compete at the Natural Olympia, it was the exact same way. She got on stage. I'm like, what? I don't know what happened to her backstage,
yeah,
but she came out like a whole different person. So yeah, that's
yeah.
it's very unassuming, guys. So this year, um, what hit you as the biggest surprise? Overall throughout the event, whether it was somebody on stage or magnificent lunch, whatever it was. What do you think hit each one of you the biggest?
Yeah, for me, definitely the depth and the total numbers of the women's bodybuilding class. That's
Oh,
something because I have a couple
blown
women's
away.
bodybuilders on my roster, and the discussion has been like, where do we take you to even get you the chance to win a pro card? Because
Yeah,
some of these
here.
shows don't have any, some have one, right? So when you see 11 high quality women's bodybuilders come out on stage, it's like, this is it. Like, this is
And there was a
where it
couple scratches
starts.
too, James.
Okay,
There was a
wow.
couple scratches. So yeah, that was. I was absolutely blown away. I hope I'm going to say I'm going to manifest it. I'm putting it in the universe. I want that class to be doubled in size next year. I want the women's bodybuilding class to be the largest class on stage next year.
Let's
Okay,
go.
sorry. Go
If
ahead.
if any show's gonna do it, it's gonna be Mr. A, because yeah, that was
I'm
incredible
sure
to
as hell
see,
he'll try.
Yeah.
and awesome competitors too in that class. So that was
Yeah.
great.
What do you think, Leroy? What was your big takeaway from this?
I think for me, like, we can talk that there's like high quality athletes and this kind of and that, but I think for me, it's just the production will always be what sets your show apart. Um, we do coverage, like that's our business, right? So we
Right.
see, like Dan and I, we were ripping through live streams over the weekend because there were so many shows going on, and you can see the effort that goes in and the effort that doesn't go in, and these are supposed to be the highest profile shows in the organization, and certain areas are lacking. Um, and overseas there seems to be a lot of effort into the production side of it, but
Yes.
in
Hmm.
North America not so much. And I think that's where you will are and will continue to stand out, is the effort you're putting in there. The screens on display and the lighting and the
The
stage and the
Mr. America
backdrop,
Jumbotron. How cool was that?
like all
Hmm.
that stuff, man. The commentary, right? Like people, it's like you've always said this from the beginning, is you want it to look, feel professional,
Right.
and you continue to do that. And as a fan of the sport, and for me, I grew up watching professional wrestling, so you can imagine the kick I get of like big, loud, and in your face, that kind of stuff. I think it just
Right.
really like ticks a box that natural bodybuilding doesn't typically get ticked. Um, so I think that will be, and it'll only solve every other problem as far as like registration and quality and this and that. I shared the post of Silas today with the photo, and I was like, I'm gonna send
Oh,
people to
that's right.
Mr. I'm going to send people to Mr. A to get sick photos, if nothing else. Like, if you come 15th out of 15, I mean, a lot of people, they're not going to win, they're not going to place, and the photos are all they have left. And
Yeah,
we've all got photos from shows that we will never post and never share because they're dog shit. You guys are continuing to set a really good standard for production value. And as athletes, people appreciate that. We appreciate it because, those are the things that, like, 10, 15, 20, 30 years you're going to look at and be like, damn, like, I don't ever look at trophies, but I'll look at the show
yeah.
photos that I really have saved because I'm like, damn, that really captured, that moment for me, or whatever it may be, right? I don't know if did you guys have people roaming around backstage too?
I did. So the front of the stage, we had we had two cameras three cameras in front,
Yep.
a fixed camera backstage, which got some of those shots like you saw from Silas, um, and then another photographer backstage
Yeah.
doing stuff, which that's not like part of like the photo package or anything. That's just something I'm like, I'm gonna pay a photographer. I'm gonna get this.
Yeah.
Um, my intent is to get those pictures out to people,
Yeah,
or
because
at least
those
post them and tag them. And
Yeah, those candid shots are really cool.
yeah,
There's photos that these guys here captured at my season last year of them being backstage, and they're not professional quality, but they're some of my most favorite memories of me and my family, me and my wife, me and them. That
right,
they will forever mean more to me than any trophy ever will. So maybe that's
yeah,
something that, like you said, whether you get them to the athlete specifically or you kind of have someone delegated, like, hey, if you see like a husband and wife choking up because they just won, go click.
right, right. And the photographer we had backstage, she did an amazing job on capturing some stuff. Oh,
Yep,
and we had another videographer backstage. There were so many people involved in the the capturing of
for
the
sure.
event. Um,
And that makes a difference, man. Like,
Yeah, like
don't.
we're managing
Yeah,
so many people on so many different levels, doing so many different things for different reasons. It is really insane. But you're right, like all that goes into the production value of an event, right? If you leave a show and you got 15 shots of hitting a front double bicep and a side chest, like cool. That's what I look like on show day. But when you start getting some more creative things,
100%.
you could really appreciate, bodybuilding is an art. So it should be captured as an art. And I'm trying to do that. What we did with the cameras this year, I've been trying to put in place for a couple of years now. And I still see some tweaks that I needed, but the photographer took the direction and
Yep,
pulled it off best that he could. Now that I saw the pictures, I know what tweaks we need to make for next year with that.
yep, yep. No, I mean that
Mhm.
You could
will.
walk the stage next year, Leroy, so we could get some of those shots of you. I'll let you do that.
Let me mini
You
cut.
could guest pose.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Let's put that on the to-do list.
What about you, Dan? What did you think? What was your big takeaway? Any big shocks or surprises?
Yeah, so those two guys I think painted really good, like with broad brush. Those two things I think were great. Mine is a little more specific. That came to mind is the conditioning that and just the package that Robert Thompson brought. I knew that he was good. I mean, he won IMBF Worlds last year, but that is an amateur show. But what he brought, I mean, I thought he was lights out. I mean, I believe judging was unanimous for him, and
Yeah.
the physique that he brought and the detail that he brought. I mean, I was back with him downstairs while he was getting tested,
Which took forever. The poor guy couldn't pee.
yeah, he couldn't
we
pee,
were we were
but
there.
like
Yeah.
just like
We were
him moving
watching. I mean,
around.
we weren't watching. No, we weren't watching.
Now this
So
sounded weird,
so I'm
but
glad you
yeah.
brought that up that you were downstairs with him. So what did you think of the whole process using the Center for Drug Free Sports and Drug Free International on the way they handle all the the collection process and all that?
Yeah. So
It
so I
it
actually
seemed
did. I can
professional.
speak on it just because I did the drug testing with WMBF Ontario. I was one of the ones taking samples, and there was someone else there that like Leo was there, walked me through the process. Like he'd done it before. It was very standardized, right? We watched, we did it to the best of our ability, but like those guys were not messing around at your show. It was like, you open this sample, I don't touch it. You close this sample at this time with this, and like it was like to the T. You could tell it was very regimented, and like that's what they do. So they did
Right.
it with the utmost professionalism.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was down there briefly, when I was, getting athletes down there and making sure the athletes were down there. Um, and yeah, I was very happy with them. I'm glad I signed with them. Um, I'd like to see more organizations go that route. Um, because listen, like I said, if the NFL could do it, and the NHL and NASCAR, you know, another way to elevate our sport is to have the best of the best on as many levels as possible. And I think that's what's
Mhm.
really gonna help, is all those little things. Guys, listen, thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having us on,
And
man.
hope everybody out there enjoyed listening and watching. If you're watching, join us next time. We'll be back regular starting January. Okay, thank you for listening to another episode of Jimmy Repeat. And next year, October 11th through 13th, back in Atlantic City. For more details and Mr. American merch, check out MrAmerica.com.